terms of families that are dealing with deceased relatives and resolving. It gets confusing.
I hope you could come back. Our time's up, but I hope you would come back with a plan on how you're going to improve that service.
We will.
That's one of the areas we still hear a lot of concerns about.
We will.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Warner. Senator Lankford.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Good to see you again.
Yes.
Thanks for the work that you continue to do. It's an incredibly difficult job. And obviously this week with all the filings and everything else goes on, appreciate you being here on this. Senator Cassidy was just asking about the Venmo requirements that my Democratic colleagues added in the Inflation Reduction Act, that there'd be additional new reporting on people that actually use Venmo and that there'd be new filing requirements and such that would come from that. You expressed that there's a flexibility on that interpretation based on other statutes on this. This is part of the challenge that we're dealing with right now, is the flexibility side of things. Try to determine what is something that can be counted on and how that's actually interpreted and where it goes. Sitting at that exact same table just a few weeks ago was a business leader from the Huntsman Corporation. Was talking about they were doing some chemical manufacturing for EV batteries, but the tax credit piece, the 30D clean vehicle credit, the foreign entity of concern restriction that was out there dealing with that was waived for China by Treasury and by IRS, so that that company that was an American company no longer was competitive, because the Chinese company was now competitive, even though the statute itself says that that's not allowed. There was a waiver that was given to a Chinese company that directly undercut an American company on that. So the predictability of this becomes a big issue. Where I'm headed on this is, this administration took out the what's called the OIRA review for the IRS for new regulations. Obviously, previous administration had an additional review. This administration took that out. My question is, why is it a bad thing for the IRS to be able to have OIRA review for regulations they're putting in, when you've expressed the flexibility that you have to be able to do that, but every other entity needs to have OIRA review to be able to have some kind of review under the Administrative Procedures Act?
That's a great question. Ironically, I started my career at the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs at OMB, and I am a big proponent of notice and comment rulemaking. I'm always telling my team, if there's an opportunity for us to go out for public comment, whether through formal channels like the Administrative Procedures Act or any way, so that we can telegraph where we're going, the better. And going back to the 1099-K, that is what we tried to do in terms of have public meetings and open forums and webinars to try to hear the concerns and reconcile them and make sure that we were accessible. Look, I know that we continue to do notice and comment rulemaking. I know that, for example, on the recent regulations on cryptocurrency, we got 40,000 comments on it. And so we continue to have that process. I will have to get back to you on kind of the nuances of how we continue to work with OMB and OIRA. It's a different path than other agencies, but it's not a no path. We continue to feel accountable to make sure that we are leveraging notice and comment as often as we can.
Well, what I don't want to have is, when we don't want to go through review, we don't have to. When we do want to go through review, we do. I don't want to have a situation like that, because then it's unpredictable again, and it's once we're back again to the flexibility issues. This committee has talked about this often, dealing with the Pillar 1, Pillar 2 conversation that's out there. Pillar 2 is expected to be able to take away about $120 billion from American taxpayers. The Finance Committee in particular has asked the Treasury to say, are you really going to go around this committee and cut out $120 billion? And we're still getting this push and pull back and forth with Treasury on it. So we're interested in what is predictable and what is consistent. If I can move on to a couple of the quick things on it. One is, as you and I have talked about before, I work a lot on charitable giving. This is an issue that I think is important that we incentivize as American in our tax code. It's something that will come up in our conversation next year when we're dealing with a lot of tax policy issues. But it's an area that we do need to get some insight from the IRS on what has happened in charitable giving. It is our understanding that after we stopped incentivizing charitable giving through our tax code, we had a dramatic drop in this. in charitable giving across the country, which hurts our nonprofits, which hurts that big safety net. We want to be able to get more information from you on that. We'll follow up on that in the days ahead. We're also working a lot on the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Obviously, that's coming up next year for bonus depreciation. We're in a lot of debate right now on it. But it was interesting to me on this that we've seen such conservative bastion locations as Harvard, Princeton, University of Chicago recently put out a study saying that based on some of the business tax pieces that were in there was a 20% increase in investment and also an increase in taxes that are actually coming in. My question is, there is this conversation that's happening out there about trying to raise business taxes again. Based on this study that I'm sure you've seen and others that are out there, are we continuing to see more investment in business now than what we saw years ago?
Senator, that is a question that I need to get back to you on in particular because it's more in the domain of Treasury and tax policy, and I don't want to get out in front of them, but I will coordinate with my Treasury colleagues and get back to you on the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Time of the gentleman's expired. We're just going to keep going because I know the commissioner's got a schedule. Senator Cardin's going to help. I'm going to run and go vote, but we'll just keep going. Next will be in order.